Greetings, this is Bob Thompson with the 2025 Snowpack Current Conditions Update for May 7th. I'm the Watershed Section Manager of Salt Lake County Flood Control. Our water year begins on October 1st of the previous year and continues to September 30th of the following year. So as of September 1st, 2024, most of Utah and the West in general has received below normal precipitation. The type of precipitation we're concerned about in this presentation is our snowpack. So looking at the western United States, most of the snowpack is measured in large basins, and those basins are made up of individual stations that are called snowtel stations that measure how much water is in the snowpack, and we call that snow water equivalent. If we focus in on the state of Utah, we live in the Provo, Utah Lake Jordan Basin, which is well below normal for our current snowpack. If we separate that into its constituent basins, here in Salt Lake County, we live in this area right here that says it's about 70% of normal, and that 70% is an aggregate of all of these different stations that are mostly centered in the Wasatch Range. So if we look at that same basin, graphically, this is what it looks like. The black line represents the snow water equivalent as it's accumulated from the beginning of our water year. And you can see it accumulated throughout the winter. We had a little bit of fluctuation in the early spring, and it's been melting off since about mid-April pretty rapidly. This melt curve is a little steeper than what we'd like to see. And all of the individual stations that make up that basin have kind of the same pattern. We have an accumulation of snowpack throughout the winter, fluctuation early spring, and then the lower elevation sites like this one, Lewis Meadow and City Creek, has already melted completely off. There's no snow left there. Lookout Peak, a little further up canyon, still has some snow, but we have a pretty steep melting curve, and it looks like this is going to melt off a little sooner than normal. Parley Summit, same pattern. We've already melted all of the snow at Parley Summit. Mill D and Big Cottonwood Canyon, we've melted a significant amount, and you can see this black line is way earlier than what our average melt line would be. Further up canyon at Brighton, same story. And then the site that we put a lot of stock in and look very carefully at is Snowbird in Little Cottonwood Canyon. Snowbird peaked almost a month earlier than normal. So we would expect that the runoff event from snowpack is going to happen earlier than normal, and it's probably going to be significantly less than we would normally see coming out of Little Cottonwood Canyon. And what we're looking at in the next 7 days is not a super wet forecast. We have a little bit of precipitation forecast, but not a ton for the Utah area. Seasonally, this is actually looking a lot better than it has been in previous months. We are looking slightly leaning above normal for precipitation, but seasonally we are not. We are looking below normal for May, June, July season, so spring season. Our temperature forecast is forecast to be leaning above normal for the month of May. Then our seasonal temperature forecast is definitely leaning above normal. So those are for the months of May, June, and July. And then our summer months, June, July, August, definitely leaning above normal temperatures as well. So that's good information for water managers to have. We should probably expect a warmer than normal summer. And what that means is our drought monitor is probably going to look worse each month of the summer. We are already abnormally dry to moderate drought in a lot of the state, and severe drought other parts of the state, and down in Washington County, they're in extreme drought. But luckily, we're starting off our summer irrigation season with reservoirs that are at or near capacity, and Utah Lake is in the same space. It is close to compromise. And what we expect as far as runoff is City Creek. We expect it to run off between May 15th and May 25th. Emigration Creek has likely already peaked, and it was a pretty minimal peak. Parley's Creek is probably not going to see much of a peak this year. Mill Creek, we expect it to peak between May 20th and early June. Big Cottonwood Creek, about the same time frame. And Little Cottonwood Creek, we expect this to peak in the latest part of May or early June. We do not expect to see that runoff in June and late June. If you have any questions about this information or other runoff information, feel free to visit our website, Runoff Ready, and thanks for your attention.